Good afternoon, class. So we're going to pick up where we left off, which was on 4-3, matrix multiplication. So like I mentioned before, there are two types of matrix multiplication, or ways we can multiply matrices, one of which is scalar multiplication, which we discussed. The second is matrix multiplication, which is what I'm going over today. Recall scalar multiplication is when I multiply a matrix by a scalar. So essentially a matrix by a number, just a real number. So there's an example in which I multiply 3 by a 2 by 2 matrix. So let's make this 0, -1, 5, 7. Well, we said with scalar multiplication, what you're essentially doing is you're multiplying every term or every element in this matrix by the scalar, which would mean that I would be multiplying the 0 by 3, the -1 by 3, this 5 down here by 3, and this 7 by 3, which means that all I have to do is simplify. So I am going to get 0, -3, 15, and 21. So this is essentially how to do scalar multiplication. This is useful when solving a matrix equation and all the other examples we did. But what we really want to get into today is the matrix multiplication, which is when you multiply a matrix by another matrix. We see here that matrix multiplication is essentially when you multiply elements of each row of the first matrix. So I'm going to underline that. Each row of the first matrix by element of each column of the second matrix. So I have an example here where I'm multiplying two 2 by 2 matrices. I am only going to be multiplying this matrix 1. The reason that I showed 3 other ones is so that I can show you each step. So you're multiplying row by column. Remember, we use this often. We use row by column to determine the dimensions, and we're going to be using this row by column idea, or this order rather, to multiply matrices. So what we're going to do to find the element for the element in row 1, column 1, we know we're going to have 4 elements here. Well, if I want to find this one, row 1, column 1, that would mean that I multiply row 1 in the first matrix by column 1 in my second matrix. And I'm going to find the sum of each product, meaning -1 times -3 plus the sum 0 times 5. Which means I'm going to get 3 plus 5, 3 plus 0, because 0 times 5 is 0, which gives us 3. So this element right here is going to be 3. Then we are going to have the following. I already know that this is 3. If I want to find the element next to that, which is essentially in row 1 but column 2, that means I'm going to multiply the element in row 1 by the element in column 2, which means that I'd be multiplying -1 times 3 plus 0 times 0. So I'll get -3 plus 0, I get -3 here. Now that we finished up the element in the first row, to find the element in the second row, we'll be multiplying. I already have 3, -3. If I want this element right here, which is row 2, column 1, I am going to multiply the element in row 2 in my first matrix by the column 1 in my second matrix. It's going to give me this answer here. So it's going to essentially be 3 times -3. Plus -4 times 5. 3 times -3 is -9. And here we're going to have -20. My answer is -29. So that is going to be my element 2, 1, because it's row 2, column 1. And to find my last element, which is in row 2, column 2, I'm going to be doing just that, multiplying row 2 by column 2. So row 2 by column 2 here. So let me write these elements. So I'm multiplying row 2 by column 2. That means the element in row 2 by the element in column 2. 3 by 3. Negative 4 by 0. Which is going to be 9 plus 0, just 9. So we get 9 here. So this here is my product matrix. This is what I get when I multiply the two matrices. So I'm multiplying the element in row 1, or the element in each row of the first matrix by the element in each column of the second matrix, and I'm finding the sum of that. Okay? So this is really useful in a real-world connection, like the following problems, in which we have a store that sells tapes, LPs, CDs, and this is telling you the prices. So we have a price matrix and the number of items sold. If we were to multiply these matrices, what we'd get is the total number, the gross income. So in this problem, we're finding the gross income, which means how much money we're getting in total from selling the tapes, LPs, and CDs. Well, I know how to do this just using regular arithmetic, which would mean if I know the number of items and the price as well, I'm going to multiply the appropriate items and then add them